The key triangle of health, wealth, and relationships. What to do with your money, where to take risk, and where to play it safe, and why getting your finances right is such an important part of your overall balance. Welcome back to Zestology. I'm covering these topics today with Mark Austin. And I'm really excited to be presenting this podcast on wealth and wellness. Mark is a friend of mine over many ice baths and coconuts in Thailand. We discussed all matters related to wealth. He's a great guest as he well and truly ticks the boxes of wealth and health. He is Wim Hof trained and he's a finance expert. His background is in the investment banking sector, but he changed careers early at the age of 30 and then became a full-time trader. A lifestyle trader, if you like. And now he teaches this trading world, this lifestyle trading world, to all sorts of other people who are members of his very exclusive investment trading club, I guess you'd call it. So now for the first time, we've recorded a podcast on it, on wealth and wellness. We're covering all those topics and exactly what Mark tells his clients to do with their investments, as well as his love of ice baths. I think you're going to enjoy it. Here is Mark Austin on Zestology. Mark, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I am very good, my friend. Very happy and pleased to be here. So thanks for letting me come on board.
Well, I've sort of long thought that it'd be good to cover the topic of money. But it took me a while to figure out, hang on, I've got a mate who's sort of really into teaching other people how to invest their money at all sorts of different levels and is into all the biohacking stuff as well. So it's a perfect combination.
Yeah, sure. No. Let's dive into it and let's open the realm of money. It's a big topic, as we know.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess over the years, you've had a chance to consider how much a part of overall health and balance it is.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a triangle one. So it's the health, then it's the wealth, and then it's the relationships as well. And kind of, if you don't have your health and the wealth, then the third pillar is very difficult as well. So I kind of focus on them, and then I find the relationship will kind of just work better that way as well.
Yeah. For some people who have wealth all the way through their life, I guess a few people, they wouldn't even sort of consider that might be a thing. But I guess it's when it goes away or when you don't have it that it then occupies every waking thought and you don't have the money or the time to invest in those other areas.
Yeah, sure. And I think there's different concepts of what does money mean and wealth mean. I mean, we break it down to putting food down on the table and being able to survive and, have a roof over your head. And then there's the next category, that's surviving. Then there's the next category of we need a certain amount of money to be able to do what we want. And then you've got the third category, which is, comfortability. Are you comfortable? Do you have enough money to retire? And we all worry about, when we do retire, are we going to be able to live the same lifestyle that we have now without worrying? So yeah, there's different categories. But I think in our worlds, the first category of having food on the table, having a roof over the table, most people tick that box.
Yeah. Well, you and I became friends in Thailand last year over multiple ice baths and hanging out and having and vitamin C drips and that sort of thing.
Sure.
I really enjoyed us getting to know each other. And I would love to sort of dive in quickly to what you do with your clients in terms of investments and money, and also how you ended up in Thailand, because I sort of remember the story, but not quite. And then we'll get into what we can actually do with our own money.
Yeah. So, I mean, it all started back. I was actually in the investment banks throughout my 20s. And I was literally getting up in the dark, going to work in the dark and just working all hours. And that just played its toll over the years. And although the 20s was great, I was working a lot, got a lot of experience. But when I hit my sort of late 20s, I was, in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, this doesn't feel quite right. And do I really want to spend the next 20 years working for a corporation? So I went away on holiday and had an amazing time with friends. And this is off to Thailand. We came back and we had another holiday. and then we came back. We all decided to quit our jobs. At that
Huh.
time, I was already trading my own personal trading account, and I was making as much money on the personal trading account as I was with my salary in the bank. So it was an easy decision just to quit the job, take my skills from trading, and then move over to Thailand. And I didn't really have a plan at that stage. It was just a kind of, maybe I'll spend a few months in Thailand, maybe then I'll go down to Australia, and if I need to, I'll get another job in the banks if I don't want to be trading for myself. So during that time, it was just after the financial crash as well. So I definitely got myself into a few sticky trades, but I managed to make quite a bit as well while I was traveling. And then really, I'd read a book of a quite a well-known author on trading, and
Which
I
book was
he
that?
this was John Piper, trading. I forget the name now, but John Piper, he'd written a book on trading, and I'd read the book and I thought it was really good. So I actually saw a message from him once on his. He sent an email out saying he was in Thailand. So I just reached out to him and said, "Look, let's meet up for a beer, and let's discuss. Let's go over some trading war stories."
Yeah.
So we met up, and then I told him what I did, and he said, "Look, why don't you start sharing your trades?" Because I predominantly just traded the FTSE 100, which is a UK market, and I started sharing my trades with him, and then he had a client list, and he said, "Look, why don't we open up a low cost subscription?" And share your trade signals. So that's what we did. And then, yeah, 14 years later, I'm kind of still doing something very similar, but it's expanded, doing a lot more, just not trading these days. It's investing as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So is it you and John who started Magnetic Investments?
No, so initially it was Mark Austin Trading, and actually the website is still there today.
Okay.
I can't take it down for various reasons, but it was Mark Austin Trading, and then along the journey I met Cameron Malik, who now is my business partner, and we formed Magnetic Trading and Magnetic Investments.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And actually now Cameron lives in Thailand as well. So
Does
we're
it?
both,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He'd had enough of the rat race as well in the UK and decided to shift and move over to new pastures over here as well.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it, that this sort of life of abundance that you've created around money actually came because of your health. You just realized that you were a lot healthier when you were on holiday than you when you were getting up in the dark and getting home in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really into it then, because I was still a young buck in my late 20s. Obviously, I went to the gym, but that was kind of it. Went out weekend, binge drinks, kind of ate healthy, but took my health a little bit for granted.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't into biohacking. That came a lot later. But I was into the gym. But I think just subconsciously, I just didn't feel great. I definitely put my hands up. I suffered from depression when I was working in the banks because I didn't see the daylight. I was
Mm.
literally, it was get up, come home, and it was cold, and yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely need the sunlight for sure to sort of raise me up.
Yeah. That's one of
Mm.
the hardest things about, obviously, I recorded loads of podcasts in Portugal, in
Mm.
Thailand last year, Portugal this year, and
Mm.
it's not very good advice to say to people, not that I sort of give advice really, but to say to people, just move to a hot country. Not everybody
Yeah.
can do that, but it does help, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I visit the UK I always visit the summers now. I haven't
Yeah.
done a UK winter for a very long time. I don't think I'd survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need sunlight, yeah, for sure.
Well, we're
It's a
going to work
massive
on you
mood
moving to
changer.
Portugal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's plenty of sun out in Thailand, that's for sure. Too much sun.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did your mates think of, presumably you all talked about it when you went on holiday to Thailand, and most of them
Mhm.
went back and just stayed in their jobs, right?
No, actually, at that time, we there was four of us quit our jobs, and we all moved out here. And
Wow.
then out of that lot, they've all kind of moved back. I'm the only one that's left. left behind in Thailand.
Yeah.
Just because really, I mean, the business was growing a lot, and it just didn't make any sense to move back to the UK.
Yeah. I'm just interested to know, in terms of your old colleagues, what are their
Mm,
lives like now? The ones who you left behind,
mm, mm.
compared to yours.
Um, One of them I've sort of lost contact with, but the other two, yeah, quite different,
Yeah.
very normal.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Yeah. Yeah.
the 9 to 5 grind, the house, the mortgage, yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And then the
So
ones that you didn't go on holiday with, I guess they're still working at the bank or
yeah,
trading or whatever
they
it
are.
is.
Yeah, many of them are still in the banks. I mean, obviously they've progressed their careers and they've got families now, and they're happy to some degree. But certainly, yeah, I always go back and hear them moaning about the corporate life,
Yeah.
and they wish they had a bit more freedom.
Yeah. So now you run Magnetic Investments and you work with people who sort of uh, pay you a fee per year. I think this is right in saying, and then you
Yeah.
chat to them on a daily basis and a weekly basis, and you help them with their investments. Is that right?
Yeah, because I mean, just like the health industry, the finance industry is also full of a lot of BS, and there's a lot of information out there which is wrong. I mean, just for example, if we just take a typical fund out there, that an average Joe Bloggs would maybe be told to put his money in from a financial advisor, most of those funds, they don't actually beat the overall market. And they're charging crazy fees as well. So you'll get charged, 1 to 3% of the amount, and this is per annum, the amount that you put into that fund, and then that fund is not even beating the market. So that's a big problem out there. People are not aware of the fee model that is attached to going into these so-called funds that are meant to grow your money. But over time, you take that 1 to 3% every year, it really eats into your hard-earned money. So
Gotcha.
that's a big educational learning curve. And then the other one we really teach them about as well. Everyone's heard about inflation, and but they don't really focus on currency debasement. So currency debasement is the pound, it's the euro, it's the Aussie dollar, whatever it is, the US dollar as well. It's the gradual depreciation of that money over time. What I mean by that is that dollar or that pound, whatever it's buying, becomes less and less over time. So it's not going to have the same value. Like a cup of coffee, I don't know if you're drinking coffee now, but
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
a cup of coffee down at the local cafe 5 years ago is not the same
Yeah.
as what it is now. And that's inflation.
Yeah.
But people then don't actually factor in that dollar that you're making or the pound that you're making also is losing value as well. So it's inflation and currency debasement that people need to protect their hard-earned money against.
Yeah.
And I think it's also there's this mentality as well that people should just leave their money in a bank these days, and they're safe. And what they don't realize is that by leaving the money just in cash,
Yeah.
maybe getting a bit of interest, that they're losing money actually, because the money is losing money from the currency debasement and the inflation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get on to what to do in just a sec. But just finally,
Mhm.
on that sort of interplay between health and wealth, do you
Mhm.
find, obviously, you're in Samui, and is it nighttime with you now?
No, it's actually it is still daytime.
So still
It's just
daytime, okay.
the
So you're
curtains
sort of
closed.
you're
Right.
winding down towards the end of the day. It's such a lovely
Sure.
day outside. You've got the curtains closed, but you'll probably be out in that sun once we've finished. Um, it sounds
Maybe an ice
idyllic.
bath later.
Yeah, yeah. Ice bath, perfect. I've had an ice bath at your house there, and I know you
Yeah.
think you've got a good life set up, but you're
Mm.
now helping other people with their investments. I guess that could be quite stressful. So, what sort of levels of stress do you feel now that you've got? I know you've got a lot of people in your investment club. In
Mm.
terms of how much pressure and stress do you feel now?
It's funny. When I first started doing this, 14 years ago, I had a crazy amount of stress just thinking back, because if you lost a trade, I'd get very emotionally attached to that and feel I'd
Mm,
let down my clients. So I used to get a lot of stress from doing this type of thing. These days, I don't feel it. I think I'm just so trained and self-aware of what I'm doing over the years that it just doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess it's a bit like someone who's performing on stage or whatever.
Yeah.
You have a lot of, like, if you've ever done public speaking, the first time you do it, you're so nervous and you've got butterflies or whatever. But over time, you
Yeah.
don't really get those nerves.
Yeah. Do you know if you're getting enough magnesium? Because 4 out of 5 people aren't. Interrupting the podcast for one moment to say this is a big problem because magnesium is involved in more than 300 biochemical reactions in your body. And right now, I want to talk to you about the most common signs to look out for that could indicate you're magnesium deficient. So, are you irritable or anxious? Do you struggle with insomnia? Do you experience muscle cramps or twitches? Do you have high blood pressure? Are you sometimes constipated? There are loads of other symptoms, but those are just a few questions. And here's what most people don't know. Taking any magnesium supplement won't solve your problem. I've been trying out a few new electrolyte brands recently, and frankly, I've been shocked at how many of them use really suboptimal types of magnesium. That is why, in terms of magnesium, I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually use and absorb. If you go to bioptimizers.com/zestology and use the code zestology10, you can get gifts with your purchase this month, up to 2 travel size bottles of Magnesium Breakthrough, so you can take it with you on your travels as well, especially if you go somewhere hot later on this year. So if you go to bioptimizers.com/zestology, this is a limited time offer. Use that code zestology10. That works all over the world, works on the UK site as well, which is bioptimizers.co.uk. Remember to use that code zestology10, and remember, it is really important to make sure you're getting enough magnesium, but magnesium that you can actually absorb. That's it. Back to the show. When I first went to Sky, it took me 4 years until I wasn't really tense
Yeah.
on screen. And actually, the first few months, I would come home, my body would ache so much because I
Yeah.
was sort of arranging myself into this sort of position I thought was a TV presenter position, and actually, it just really hurt my body at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. It probably
Yeah.
took me about 4 or 5 years as well
Yeah.
to just blank out that stress.
And that is that is the benefit of working with very, very experienced people in various fields. I feel that is sort of I'm almost venturing into grumpy old man territory, but that is the sort of thing that isn't valued by society in quite the same way. But when
No.
you work with someone, you really do want to work with someone who is super experienced.
Yeah, I'm all for mentorship. I think that is the quickest way to fast track yourself to success in anything, and whether that be money, whether that be health, whether that be social media marketing, whatever it is, if you can try and copy someone that has made a success of themselves, then you will inevitably become successful yourself.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's a real pleasure in it as well. I'm learning Portuguese at the moment, and it's just so
Mm,
nice to work with people who are really good at teaching Portuguese and at speaking Portuguese, and
yeah.
just learning that new skill. It's very satisfying. It's great fun as well.
No, absolutely.
Slow
Yeah,
progress.
I'm good at languages. I
No?
still haven't got a good grasp on Thai, even after all these years. I've got basic Thai down, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's tricky to learn the full language for sure.
Yeah. That's a bit different though, because Thai is really hard, isn't it? Different alphabet and everything.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. All
Yeah.
those different tones as well. So even if you think you've got it right, there's different types of Thai as well in Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah. God, yeah, that then it really gets confusing. So
For
I
sure.
guess there's a lot of people listening to this and thinking, all right, great. I know I want to be healthy. I know I want to sort out my money as well. What do I do with it? Without sort of giving away all the secrets of your annual membership, what are sort of some of the things you've already mentioned, currency debasement and not leaving it in the account? But what are the sorts of things that people should start to look at straight away?
Okay, so straight away they should, if they want, they need to get some exposure with, we call them exchange traded funds. So these are funds that are invested in the best companies throughout the world markets. So in America, you've got the Dow Jones, you've got the S&P, you've got the NASDAQ, which is a tech firm, tech index. And then in the UK, you've got the FTSE 100, which has the 100 best companies. And in Australia, you've got the ASX, for example. So we tell people to get a bit of a broad brush across all these countries and go into these ETFs, these exchange traded funds. They charge very minimal fees. So you're not going to get these crazy 1 to 3% fees from these fund managers who, again, are not really beating the markets. So that's the first stage, some ETF investments. And then we'll also bolt on some short-term trading as well. So some short-term trading, which will increase around 20% of the portfolio. And then we also have some Bitcoin as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bitcoin is very important. That for us, that's the replacement to gold, which has always been the traditional way of protecting your money against inflation. But actually, if you look over the years, gold hasn't been inflation. So that's another taboo in the financial industry.
Right. Talking of taboos, I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, but I'm pretty convinced there will be some conservative, independent financial advisors listening to this podcast spluttering into their coffee at you talking about Bitcoin. And I have to say, even some of my mates who I've got quite a few mates who've done very well in the financial world, and I consider my mates to be fairly forward thinking and fairly curious about new things, but they will just shake their heads when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's still not very adopted. I mean, I get my head around it by viewing it as a wealth storage vehicle. So it's like the digital gold. I think if people are viewing it as a replacement to the US dollar, or you're going to go into a shop and you're going to buy your groceries with Bitcoin, they're going down the wrong path. If you go down that path, I don't think you'll ever invest into Bitcoin because it doesn't make sense. But if you understand that Bitcoin is it's a way of storing your wealth, and I also like the fact with Bitcoin that there are only so many Bitcoins. There's only 21 million coins that will ever exist for Bitcoin, and that's not the same as gold. You can always dig up gold. So it's a very different asset class, and that's why we like it. I think for the next 5 years, it's a great place to put money.
And in terms of sort of broad brush, I know this is very broad strokes, and it is not financial advice as such. But then when you look at the asset allocation, what sort of percentages you're putting into those various things, the average listener to Zestology, I don't know what their wealth might be, but what, should they be putting 50% in Bitcoin and 50% in ETFs, or 99% in ETFs and 1% in Bitcoin? What is the sort of spread of allocations that you look at?
So this year we're looking at Bitcoin 20%, and then we have the rest in ETFs and short-term trading. But Bitcoin specifically is 20% of the portfolio, so it's a fairly sizable amount. And we had that allocation last year as well, and a lot of our clients were like, "Wow, that's quite a hefty one," but they did very well out of it, as you know. Bitcoin, rallied a lot, and that was really based on the ETF as well, the exchange traded fund being available in America and now it's been approved. So and as I look now, it's drifting over 48,000 a coin for Bitcoin. So
I like to think that you've got about 15 screens around you at the same time as you're talking to me, Mark.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Do you have any in sort of ultra safe investments, like just a sort of a simple savings account that's offering 5% interest or anything like that?
There's always a small element in cash, but not too much. Have enough for a rainy day. And what we say is have enough maybe for a 1 to 3 year maximum, just to cover your basics. So your food, your rent, your mortgage, whatever that is. Because what you'll have in the markets is you'll have cycles. So you'll have bull markets, which is when the market is going up and up and up and up. And then you'll have bear markets, which typically last about 2 years, actually. And that's when the market corrects and it goes down. So if you're investing, we do our best to avoid a bear market. And even if we are in a bear market, we can make money as the stock market goes down, because we'll be able to sell our trades. So get into short-term trades and make money on the downside. But that's really all we say for cash. In terms of having a lot of savings, get your money to work. Otherwise, again, you're going to be losing money in the long run. I mean, I find a lot of the baby boomers as well, because they were burnt in some of these big crashes, especially in 2008, they're very risk adverse now. So they just want to hold it in cash and don't put it in anything, but they're losing money.
Yeah. And then you mentioned baby boomers, and then I guess a lot of the listeners to this podcast might be sort of between 30 and 50. And a lot of my younger friends, especially the ones who live in London, they work really hard. They still can't afford a house and they struggle to save just because everything is so damn expensive in London. And a lot of people don't have any investments. So then they're at the other end of the scale of thinking, bloody hell, I've got to start saving a tenner a day or something like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, what you can do these days as well with investments is you can drip feed it every month. So you can set aside a certain amount. It's called dollar cost averaging, and you'll put in the same amount every single month. So maybe give up that cup of coffee in the coffee shop down the road, or give up the beers or whatever, and put that money aside every month at the same date. Do it on a direct debit, so actually then goes into something like the FTSE 100 or the S&P in America. I always say go into the American ones because you get better growth.
Yeah.
Our friend Brett, I told him to start putting money into the S&P. So now he's doing that every month. So that would be a good way to start if you're not investing yet.
I told him to put some money into Bitcoin a year ago. I don't know if he's doing that, but if he did, it's gone up 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But I still think it's still a good time to get into Bitcoin. It's still in its infancy. So yeah, we'll see. I've actually got some stats I'll share with you that what Bitcoin does over the Chinese New Year.
Oh, right. Really?
Yeah. So it will actually, historically on the stats, it will go up a certain percentage on the days leading up to New Year, and then I think it's about 11 days after it will continue to, and then it will drop off.
No way.
I'll send that to you.
Wow. Well, I'd love that. And as you know, I think unusually got a particular interest in sort of finances and numbers and everything else. I've always been quite mathematical. So I may geek out on this stuff more than other people. But I spend a lot of time thinking about all this. So I would absolutely love that. Yeah.
Yeah, the stats are great because, like many things in life, history does repeat itself, and there's no difference in the stock market. And a lot of our stuff is really getting statistical data on stuff that's happened in the past, and then looking at the probabilities, and then making a investment or trading decision based on that.
Yeah. And then you and I, when we sort of fantasized in our ice baths a year ago, we fantasized about launching a health and wealth sort of festival at some point. I think we should do that, don't you?
I do. I think we should definitely.
Yeah.
It's a good combination for sure.
Because you came to the Health Optimization Summit and that really got us thinking, didn't it? I mean, it's a great event that in London.
It is, yeah. And I will be back this year as well.
Brilliant.
For sure.
Brilliant.
Got my early bird ticket.
Yeah, great. Well, why don't we, let's talk separately and we'll do something in Portugal, something in Thailand. It'd be perfect.
Sounds good.
So in terms of books that you've read that have had an influence on you, you mentioned the book by John Piper, but obviously something I ask everyone on Zestology is, what is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy? What's is it the John Piper book? Is it something else? What is one book that's had a big impact on you?
Okay, so I mean, let's stick to the finance world, but in terms of trading the Zone by Mark Douglas. That's if you want to get into trading, that's a great one for mindset. So it will cover all the bases of mindset, and it will really give you a good foundation to getting yourself set up with trading if you want to go down that route. If you just want to do investing, then I really like the Tony Robbins books as well. He's done some
Yeah.
great books on investing and business overall.
Yeah. I've read the Tony Robbins ones, and I've been reading Market Wizards recently, which is quite fun.
That's a very good one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very good as well. Again, all psychology and mindset, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it
Yeah.
really is. And a lot of it seems to be when you're trading, it's
Mm.
not about thinking how much you're going to make. It's about worrying about how much you want to lose and then setting that absolute limit. So it's just about risk management.
Yeah. 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 And interesting actually with the stats as well on trading and really success on everything in life. It's funny that it always drops into the 5%. So you'll find that 5% of people will take all the money out of the financial markets from trading, and 95% will lose.
Really?
Yeah, and actually, if you look at that stat across anything, be it any profession, it's funny how it always comes into this 5% rule.
God,
So
yeah.
again, it's all mindset.
Yeah, yeah. And then what is one tip that you would recommend for living with more energy and vitality?
Get up. Well, firstly, don't go to bed later than 11 o'clock. And then in the morning, don't look at the iPhone. Do some breathing exercises. Do a little bit of exercise before your coffee. Don't have a coffee for the first hour before you rise. Sorry,
Yeah.
after you rise. And then, yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah, great. How often are you doing the because you did the Wim Hof training, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I actually, okay, so we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole with the
Yeah.
ice baths. I actually find now a lot of people have taken it to the extreme. So you're getting a lot of these young guys now that are sitting in ice baths for 20, 30 minutes, massaging their ego and going, yeah, I just did 30 minutes. And actually it's doing more harm than good. Actually, for me, a minute to 2 minutes is all you need. You want that gentle shock of the body. If you push it too much, then actually it's causing too much stress in your body, and it's a counter effect.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that, because even though my HRV stats were massive when we were doing those ice baths every day in Thailand, but now here I don't have an ice bath in Portugal, but I go sea swimming, and it feels cold when you get in, but actually when you check the temperature, it's 15, 16 degrees. But that just seems to fix me better. And then I come out and I still feel amazing. So yeah.
I think everyone, like anything, everyone's got a different feel. One program is not going to work well for everyone. And with the ice baths, for me, definitely, I have a little sweet spot. If I go over that sweet spot, then I actually feel pretty tired afterwards. And yeah, I just think it's maybe a bit too much stress on the body.
Yeah.
So for me, 1 to 2 minutes, I feel great after that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Mark, thank you so much. It's the first real podcast that I've done on money. And I have a feeling that there's probably quite a few questions that people would have liked me to ask that I haven't asked. So we can always do a part 2, which would be great. Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find out more about you and Magnetic Investments as well?
So if they go to www.magnetictrading.com, that will give us a bit more information there. There's actually a free Telegram channel that people can join, and they'll get updates to investing and trading, give them some tips. And of course, there's always my email as well if people have questions as well.
Yeah, I'm in the free Telegram group and really enjoying it. Really impressed, actually. It's great. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mark, good to talk to you, mate. Get outside in that sun.
All right, thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Mark. That is it for this week's Zestology. Thank you to Mark, and thank you for listening as well. And do go and check out Mark's work with magnetic trading as well. Now, do you know if you're getting enough magnesium? Because 4 out of 5 people are not. That is a big problem, because magnesium is involved in more than 300 biochemical reactions in your body. And as you know, I've been feeling a little under the weather recently, which I hate when it's Zestology, and I'm trying to bring the energy and vitality, and that is my thing. But you can't really argue with 6 days of fever on the Oura ring. And sometimes you just got to take it a little bit easier. So I've been upping my magnesium dose. I don't know if I'm magnesium deficient or not, but when you do go through one of these periods where you're not feeling quite so good, there are dozens of symptoms of magnesium deficiency, and that might be one of them. So I've upped my magnesium dosage recently, and it's definitely helping me on the recovery trail. So you can go to www.bioptimizers.com/zestology. It's bioptimizers.com/zestology. Get a minimum of 10% off, but recently it's been more like 30% over on there. And actually that code, Zestology10, works not just for Magnesium Breakthrough, but all the Bioptimizers products. Now, taking just any magnesium supplement won't solve your problem, because most supplements use the cheapest kinds of magnesium that your body just can't absorb. So that's why Magnesium Breakthrough has 7 unique forms of magnesium. And you've heard me banging on about it on Zestology for the last couple of years. They've been my podcast partners for a long time. There's a very good reason why, because I take it and I know a lot of listeners take it as well. Bioptimizers.com/zestology. Use the code Zestology10 and have a great week.